We're so grateful for everybody this morning. Come on in. We are super duper grateful, blessed to have you guys again. Man, we are trudging through this 30-day campaign of Revive the Mind. I Speak Life. I had no idea that it would do the things that it is doing. The testimonies are coming in. We are grateful. And today is going to be no different. We were able to snag a wonderful, wonderful millennial who has been a part of many of the different things that I have done, and feel honored that Christian David would be with us. He's a recording artist. He's so many different other things, a songwriter. He's just a magnificent young man. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity to be able to be here on this morning. Shout out to the folks who are just the faithful folks. Y'all jump on Facebook faster than I can hit the live button, and I love it. It's encouraging to those of us who are content creators, such as myself, to be able to bring you great information that will encourage, that will motivate, and that will take you to another space and place. So we're so super excited that you guys have joined us. And to those in the Zoom room, you guys are faithful. You guys are troopers. You guys be here before the 6 a.m. time come, and you have afforded us the opportunity to be able to be here. I mean, you guys jump on here and it's just encouraging. I really want to have my own syndicated talk show. Would love to take somebody's spot on national TV as well. That is my desire. And I already got the programming ready for that. I'm very, very serious, which is why we're shifting and changing the program on our own YouTube channel, just so they can see what we're able to do. And so we'll be doing Mental Mondays, Think Tank Tuesdays, which is all about business and commerce, Wellness Wednesday, Transformational Thursday, and Faith Focus Friday. And yes, we will be doing each of those topic subjects on the talk show, on the live syndicated talk show. So I'm going to go ahead and do it my own self through the platforms that we have been afforded. But, I really want that opportunity to do that in that way and be a blessing to the world. So listen, as I stated before, we are excited. We are elated that we have on today Christian David. We're going to bring him in just a moment, but let me tell you something. We are getting ready to rock and roll. I want you to sit back. This Revive the Mind, I Speak Life. I want you to sit back and I want you to consider what's getting ready to happen. This video is going to be a blessing, but you've got to listen with everything you got in it. And I'm just going to dive into it because it's a topic that we do not like to deal with and that we do not like to be a part of. And so today we're just going to kind of go there in Jesus' name. All right.
Hello, this is Christian David. I hope everyone is well. I first want to thank Dr. Lakia Long for this platform and opportunity to share on this very important issue and topic of speaking life. It's something I definitely know quite a bit about. It's interesting that this came along around this time because I was recently just talking with some friends of mine about a situation I went through about 10 years ago now. And it was very traumatic, very sensitive. And I'm now in a place where there's literally no residue of it. There's no flashes of it. And I was talking with my friends and close family members asking, I said, I don't know if I'm ever actually going to share that story. If that's something I'm ever actually going to talk about, because, I don't really see the need anymore. I shouldn't say I don't see the need, but I'm so far removed from it. It's just something that doesn't even cross my mind anymore. But I know that there are some other people that may be dealing with the same thing. And so again, I'm thankful for this platform, this opportunity to, possibly help somebody. So I was in a situation, like I said, about 10 years ago. I trusted somebody in the clergy, a pastor to be specific, who took me under their wing. They purported to want to help me. They did things to help me, where employment was concerned, financially. Now, they weren't just giving me things, they were giving me things to do around the church, because I was young. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know what I wanted to do scholastically. I was kind of all over the place. But they came in. They were well aware that I didn't, for a large portion of my life, I've not had a stable male figure. I've had my uncles. My grandfather was a big part of my life. And then, I have my stepfather who passed in 98. And so I've had male figures, but nothing too consistent. So he stepped in to want to fill that void. But little did I know he had ulterior motives. I'm sorry. He had ulterior motives and other plans. And when that came to light and what I had to deal with as a result of that, it spiraled me into a very dark place, a very, very dark place. My trust was completely broken in the church and with a lot of people, because after that situation, I felt like I didn't want to be around anybody, especially anybody in the church. And I felt like I couldn't trust much of anybody outside of my mother and a few select family members. And my self-esteem was broken as a result. My self-esteem was broken. And I didn't spiral out, but just emotionally, I was all over the place. I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't know where to turn. But I found myself, even in that moment, grasping to God even stronger. And while I was grasping to God, I just kept reminding myself that this is not the end. Dr. Judith McAllister said something to me not long ago that I'm going to hold with me forever. That's an encouragement. And I found that word that she gave to me now was relevant back then. It's going to be relevant, wherever I go. And she said, don't forget what God said to you in the light when life hits. And I'm kind of paraphrasing. I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but it was around that area. Don't forget what he said to you in the light when life hits, or when dark, or in the dark times. And in other words, when you're going through trials and tribulations, when your heart's been broken, when your life's been trampled on, when you don't know how you're going to see your way through it, don't forget what God promised you and the words that God spoke to you when you were on the mountaintop, when you were up here and you were getting the prophetic words and you were feeling larger than life, and God was just opening doors left and right. When life hits, and I promise you, it's gonna hit one way or another, either financially, through your relationships, like I said, your trust being broken, and you may make some decisions that are not the best, and just whatever it is, when life hits and you find yourself in a deep, dark place, that's when you have to reach down and remind yourself of everything that God said, not just what he said to you, but the promises that are in his word. And that's what I had to do. The words to myself during that time and that season is, this is not my end all. This is not my be all. And this will not be my narrative. This will not be what defines me. This situation that I just went through, this will not be what how Christian David will end. And so I picked myself up. I dusted myself off. Was it hard? Yeah. Was it difficult? Yes. But I dusted myself off. And I continue to pursue the things of God. And now, as everybody just saw, I was just accepted into the Berklee School of Music. And that's after a long list of blessings and doors that God has already opened over the past few years. So I'm saying all that to say, just as I did, you can do the same. Don't let one situation define you. You're bigger than that, because our God is bigger than that.
Good Lord from Zion, and Jesus is Lord, and we are so excited that we are here together. We are bringing on Mr. Christian David. Listen, I saw the video before, but just to see it all over again and to get that information just in our face is just phenomenal. And because I'm just the right person to be able to do it, we're going to talk about a very powerful, sensitive topic, and we're going to use grit and tact, but we're going to be very, very specific, because people are hurt everywhere, from the leading of someone in clergy or in the pastorate or in spiritual leadership, and they are affecting and damaging. Him and I have had this conversation before. Let me just tell you a little bit about him in about 45 seconds, which doesn't do much justice, but will give you some insight. He knows that I do mental health in the church. And so one day he reached out to me, which told me a lot about who he was and who he is, and said, hey, Dr. Long, I want to gather some of my millennial friends myself on a Zoom, and I would like to have you to come and just speak to us, because we just got a whole lot of stuff going on, and I'm going to pay you to do that. And I thought to myself, when you can come to an understanding that there's something not only just you need, but a part of your generation needs as well, well, you definitely are 5 steps ahead of the game, and a part of a different clan. So welcome, Christian David, to the Revive the Mind I Speak Live 30-day campaign. We are excited to have you, and gracious good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yes, because you were he let me know he happened to look last night. I'm so glad that generation takes a look before the night before, and he realized, oh, it's 6 a.m. You know.
Yeah,
so
because me and the AMs don't really see eye to eye. So when I saw 6, I was like, hey, wait a minute. Like,
I love it. So listen, let's just dive right in. All right. So for those of you who are listening, you guys know that I am a marketplace evangelist, and my job in the kingdom and in the earth is to cause people to see God. And he allows me to use biblical principles, psychological concepts, in order to help people see themselves and to see God. I'm so elated for the opportunity to do so, because I get a chance to dive into a lot of areas and anointed to do so that others really just cannot. And so this is one of those areas. So let's talk about the moment that you realize, and then we're going to shift, but I want to talk about the mindset for a moment, that you realize you were involved in a situation that someone else had different ulterior motives for you. Being a young adult man, what was going on in your head, and who did you tell, or who could you tell at that time?
what was going on in my mind was really, I was like, there came a point where I was like, how did I was literally like, how did this happen? How did I get here? And I was literally kept playing everything back, and I was like, how did I not see this? And it really was an eye opener to how, I hate to use this word with them, but this is really what it is, how strategic a lot of them are. How sly they are, and it literally comes right up underneath your nose, and you have no idea. But even in that, I saw the grace of God, because to answer your other question, there were specific people God was placing around me, because there came a point I didn't know who I could talk to, how I was going to tell them what was going on. But God was strategically placing people around me, and I found myself in situations, there were like 4 or 5 different times I found myself in situations where it was just me and another individual that I could trust, that was trustworthy. And 3 of those individuals, we never ended up where we were just sitting down. I should say it was very rare, but where we ended up, where we were just sitting down talking. It was just me and them, and for a lengthy amount of time. And so we were talking, and we found ourselves in a situation where they were like, hey, what's going on with you? And I was like, what do you mean? And they really started, and they never really did that. They're like, what's going on with you? And so I ended up telling them what was going on. And I saw why God did that, because when it became time for the rubber to meet the road and everything hit the fan, I had a support system around me. I had a support system around me.
So let me ask you, so how do you deal with the possible guilt? Because when you feel like have been in a situation, and for those who do not know, I because my heart and interest is around the faith-based community, I get a lot of calls. I am an advisor to a lot of people I am a mental health professional to a lot of people, pastors, first ladies, etc., all across the country, and feel very honored and humbled to do so. With that comes a lot of stuff that people don't just normally talk about at all. And so I have literally heard it all, and grateful for the wisdom of God to be able to help people to navigate out of these areas. When you realized that you had been groomed, or did you know that you had been groomed to being in this situation? Did you ever address this with the individual, or or were you so in shock that you just kind of kept moving, thinking this really can't be happening?
When I realized of what was going on and what had been going on and within the setup and everything, to answer your question, yes, but I went in, I went, I went told, I went above their head because they're a severe narcissist. They're severe narcissists. And that's one thing that I had to realize and understand. And the reason why I bring that point up is because when you're dealing with, I want to say this first, when you're dealing with people like that, I had to come to an understanding that nothing you're going to say is going to change the way they're viewing it. Because I had, spoken one-on-one at first several times about, hey, this isn't right. This isn't right. This wasn't right. I see what you did. I saw but nothing I was saying was getting through, and they actually kept trying to pursue. And so I ended up having to go above their head and rang the alarm quite loudly.
So let me ask you, so that's really key. So in your need to speak life, you had to go a step higher and above the individual. What did that do for you in terms of how you felt the people were viewing you, or the person that you had to go to talk to about the situation? And did they believe you, or did they do anything?
They did believe me. They did believe me. In terms of speaking life, for myself, it was something that was necessary and freeing. It was something that was necessary and freeing, because one of the first things, there were 3 individuals I spoke to in leadership. One of the first things they told me was like, okay, you need to realize, number one, you need to get out of this environment, because this is not going to change. This is not going to change. They're not going to change. So you need to get out of there. And so once that set in, and I was like, okay, that thing got me to a safe place, and to be able to rebuild my mindset, readdress everything with where my mindset and emotions and all that were concerned. Did they do anything? Not really.
Now, you sound, is that shocking for you that nothing was actually done?
At the time, yes.
Yes.
Looking back now, no.
Okay.
And I see now why everything, I'm gonna be honest, I see now why everything happened the way it happened, because, I feel like I was kind of almost set up to be a whistleblower of sorts for that type of situation, because I've been able to help derail others who were headed in that same direction with clergy members.
And let me tell you, you are blazing with questions on here. So I'm going to give you this first one, because it's from a fellow millennial who happens to be my mentee. She asks the question, so with you feeling till this day that the person is a narcissist, if you saw the person, would you be fine?
Yes. I was just actually talking to somebody about this. There was a time I was like, if I see you on the street, if I see you on the street, but yeah, no, all joking aside, yeah.
So let me
I had to work with this individual.
Okay, so because I know the backdrop story, I know all the whole story. So just so people can get a visual for themselves, So was there anything that ever happened physically that ever happened between you and the individual?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so because I know I could ask you that because I want people to understand that, and shout out to a man, a guy that reached out to me several months back when I was talking about men being products of incest and sexual abuse from women and sexually abusing them. And nobody talks about these things, especially in the church. And then they're wondering why people are chasing skirts. It's not that they're chasing because they're trying to be a whore in the church. They are trying to deal with the inadequacy that somebody stole or took. And it's a process. It is a process. You're 10, somebody's groomed you when they were 18, they're in the church, and it keeps going on and on and on. And then they pass you along to their other friends, and it's really, really situation. So I wanted to just ask, okay, so something did happen physically between the two. Now, you had to work with this individual. Were you also living at the individual's home and receiving help in that way? No, but you did have to work with them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because you used the term traumatize or traumatizing, yes, in your video. And how did you start to unwork? And for those who are watching, I'm going to break down narcissism actually on the page. I'm going to give us a layman's term of narcissism because it's really, really important. And you're going to be shocked when I give you the terminology of a narcissist. I'm sure you know one in a very, very sincere way. They will gaslight you. They will make you feel like the things that they are doing to you, they will make you feel like you have done it to them. They will blame you. They will have you always insecure. I'll just give you the drop. They always make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. And they will always have this statement, which is a dangerous statement. I never said that. You didn't hear me say that. That's a really... I'm telling you, I have studied narcissism to a T, and it's a personality disorder, and it is true, and it is scary, and nonetheless, here we go. So, we got the physical thing that happened. You realize this is not okay. Now, how do you talk to some elders or you talk to some other folks? You're trying to get your life together, but you're still having to work with them. What's that like? And when do you decide I've got to make the break?
Well, it wasn't for another about 2 years after I broke from the situation where I actually had to work with them. And that was my first, to answer to the question that came in, if I saw them today, would I be okay? That was my first test for that. Because I had been put in a prominent position. Actually, Dr. Long, that was when I first met you. I was actually the minister of music for the PAW. That was during the time when I was having to work with that individual. And so that was my first test. Like, can you handle yourself in this position professionally, do your job and still work directly with this individual? And it was difficult.
I remember, because that was the conversation that you had on the sidebar, and you were just very, just straight up, you said, I just want to share some things with you, and you did, and I was in shock, but it's still always shocking, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And knowing the church culture that I know, I get hit on all the time. It is true, because I'm called by God to do a whole lot of things, and this, that, and the other. And so I have learned, how to deflect and how to be straightforward. And as I've gotten older, even more so, really, just like, that's just gonna mess up the will of God, just the whole bit, and the favor of God's just gonna dissipate. And right through here, it's looking like I need all of God's favor. You know what I'm saying? So I get that. And the people, thank you guys so much for being attentive. Share this video with folks every single where while we are talking. You should be sharing so that we can be able to help somebody. Now, here we go with the helping. And I'm going to let you guys know up front, we're going to take about 3 to 5 minutes extra than normal. So we'll hit it off about 3 to 5 minutes extra, because I just want to get these questions out. So Christian, so you're working with them, and then when do you realize you just cannot work with them, or what happens?
I never got to that point. I finished my job.
Oh, wow.
I finished my job, but the sad thing is, even during the process of working with them, I got a clear view into the fact that they still had not changed. They still had not changed. And it was like, I could call you right now and you would be like, when and where. And that's sad. That, and so it actually it got to a point where it's like, this is really sad, because when you step into freedom, and when you say, and you see somebody else that's that's yet still bound, there does become a point where it turns from anger, anger and
Yep.
frustration, to, I don't know if we should use the word pity, but
But that's a great word.
yeah, it's like, wow, you're still struggling with that. This is really sad.
So let me ask you, so the struggle is still there, still present. You now have moved on and understanding. How did you reclaim your manhood? How did you do that? That's a great violation. It's not just a violation of someone that didn't know you. It's a violation of someone who is supposed to be watching over you to some extent. So it becomes very different. And I always like to tell people, it doesn't matter who who touches you the wrong way, or tricks you, or behooves you, or brings you into their whatever. It doesn't matter who they are, man to man, woman to woman, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. Flesh is flesh, and it likes to be touched and likes to be felt. And if it feels good to whomever, it's going to keep moving. So how did you regain your manhood back?
Got you. Well, I do want to say, at this point, I have not seen them in quite a few years.
Okay.
At this point, it's been quite a few years. But number one, reclaiming a lot of therapy. I was going, even while it was going on, I started going to therapy. But I was surrounded by a lot of individuals who I was able to openly speak with, vent to, process with. And through that process, I came to the realization, like, okay, yeah, this was not, I won't say use the word divine, but this was a setup by the enemy. This is not your destiny. This is not, how it's gonna end for you. You still got plans. God still has plans. God still has plans for you. And then when I started seeing what God was doing through that experience, and how I was started being used as a tool to help divert other situations, it was like, okay, this was an unnecessary, this was a necessary inconvenience.
So let me ask you, so here it is, now your life becomes a tool for God to speak life and to help others. Because I heard it very clearly when you said it, to help others be diverted from the same situation. Unfortunately, it happens so much in the Christian thing going on. And let me tell you what I love about you, is that I've never detected a hatred for the church, for God, for the people of God, nor the leaders. I've always seen you constant about the respect and honor for the leaders. You've never bashed or anything of that nature. You've never let that thing become a sour space and place, which is such a blessing. So what do you say to someone who may be in a situation that they know is just not what they need it to be? What's their first step of speaking life and getting out?
The first thing that was said to me, you need to get away. As hard as it is, you need to get out of the situation, get out of that environment. That's the first thing. You got to get away, because you can't begin the process of speaking life, changing your situation, changing your mindset while you're still in the space. It's the same way if, of domestic abuse. You got to get away from, those that are married. You got to get away from that situation, because, we keep trying to tell yourself, well, they won't do it again. Well, they won't change. No, you got to get out. You got to get out.
Let me ask you, how long did it take you, Christian, to get out? How long did it take you to get out?
Here's the funny thing. Okay, so I'm glad you asked that, because there was a certain point in time. I remember they were having service, and we were praying. I was walking around, and God was speaking to me so clearly, and the Lord told me right then and there, you need to leave. You need to leave now. And I said, okay. So I tried to leave the way I wanted to leave. I was like, well, okay. Because there was this big thing coming up at the church. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna get, and at the time I was working in several departments and areas. So I was like, okay, I'll get them through this. I'll get the church through this situation, and then I'll leave. And I let leadership know. including the individual, hey, 2 weeks and I'm out. And the first thing they did was they were like, okay, well, no, don't do that. They were like, don't do that, just, take some time, think about it, take a paid day off, and then we'll readdress this. And then, so I was like, okay. And so then the Lord was still on me, no, you got to get out. You need to leave. I was like, okay. So then I still told leadership, no, I'm going. And so then they did exactly what you talked about. When that first tactic didn't work, it turned into, well, you know what, this isn't right. I've helped you. I've done this, I've done that. And then, you're such a vital part of the ministry that when you leave, I'm going to be left dealing with all the questions of the whys. Why did Christian leave us like this? Why? And then I'm going to, they're going to go through the cycle. First, they're going to be angry. Then they're going to be hurt. Then they're going to be upset. And all because you chose to be selfish and leaving. And so I'm taking all this. I don't know how to take this and deal with this. Because again, I've never gone through anything like this. And so I stayed. And this was my first realization to the fact that if you don't move when God tells you to move, God will allow something to happen to force you to move. And because I didn't move when God told me to move, he allowed something to happen that blew up and it forced me out.
And listen, and this is for those of you who are those great Bible scholars. We know what the force out looks like. Come on, Lot's wife. He told, don't turn around. She turned around, pillars. So listen, Moses, hey, you led the people, but you yourself could not go into the promised land. You got angry and frustrated with the people, but God gave you instructions. And that is what happens with us when God is telling us, get going, move, do. And out of our frustration and anger and our own way, we lose what God is saying, and we may very well lose our life. So we're so grateful that you were able to get out, but it all blew up, and you had to recover, it all. And God was like, I was trying to give you a much more simpler way to where you could have recovered and cried and did whatever you needed to do. But no, you chose, and yet God in his sovereignty, he was so merciful and so graceful. Let's ask it like this. You had the situation, it was big, it transformed you in so many different ways, to be even the person that you are today, a great natured person. How do you safeguard, for those parents who are listening, watching, how can they safeguard their child from this?
You have to stay, you have to, I know this may sound cliche, you have to stay alert. You have to stay alert and watchful. Yeah, that's there are and I'm really processing this as as I'm talking. But yeah, don't trust everybody around your child. Even in the church, don't trust everybody around your child. They need to earn, and when I say your child, I don't care how old they are, 10, 11, 12, 15, 17, I don't care how, they need to earn the right to be able to be alone with your child. And when I say earn that right there needs to be a track record of, of consistent behavior and do right. Yes, don't just, because that's a lot of mistakes. That's a big mistake I've seen a lot of people make. Oh, that's Bishop so-and-so. Oh, okay, you need to go, go sit and talk with them. Okay, no. Oh, hey, because we get so so enamored with the titles and with the positions that we think that everybody's and understandably so, we think everybody's trustworthy, and they're not.
So let's say this, and you guys are just phenomenal. You guys are jumping on here. I just love this morning crew. You guys are just so great. And you are right, Louisa, it was great manipulation, trying to lay the guilt on another person. And you are absolutely right. Too many Christians are suffering in silence. And the reason why I think that, Christians' conversation about speaking life is so powerful, and I'll make sure I get your address, because before you get out of here to Boston, we have an I Speak Life shirt for you. And we want you to wear it proudly, because we're getting ready to hit those HBCUs in Texas. And so we want you to be a part of it. We're going to start with the 9 there. So shout out to Aaron Williams for helping to make that happen at his school. And so we're just elated. And we will be talking about this situation because I'm finding out that many African Americans who have gone off to college have had some kind of sexual assault if they came from church. And I hate to say it, from the church or somebody that was in the church. And it's no downer. We're not here to blame or do any of that with the church. I am called, I believe, to help to bring healing and to bring light to the reality that something else sick is going on and it goes on. And I'm not sure why we ignore the conversation. Let's get in the room and let's say, you know what? I got the proclivity. I want to be dealing with young girls, 18, or I want to do X, Y. We don't have those conversations because someone taught us to lie and think we were supposed to be truthful in the kingdom. And so let me ask you this last question. So now you're flourishing, God has blessed you, you're going on or whatever. Are there moments and times in your life, Christian, where you find or you ask yourself, God, why me?
Not anymore.
Okay.
There was, but now I see why. Because there was, 2 years ago, I'm gonna use this. 2 years, this is when it became clear, like, okay, this is what it is. Two years ago, there was a conference that I was at, and there was a pastor that came out here, and there were some things that they were doing, some odd things that they were doing leading up to their time to get ready to come out here. But it was just like it was triggering, like like I smell this. This smell. I see what you're doing, but it was very. It wasn't. It wasn't blatant. But I was like, and they had been dealing with another friend of mine that they had already had. And so I kept telling that person, I was like, I don't know about, I was like, and I kept, how long have you known this? And they said, oh, no. And so long story short, when they got it, I mean, they were hot on both our heels. And I went and I told the people that were over the conference, you need to watch this one. You need to watch this one. And lo and behold, came out that's exactly what what they were about. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, God, that's what this is about. You have set me up to help individuals, avoid either avoid this or get out of this. Sometimes, unfortunately, you're the one that has to, you're the one that has to go through it so you can help somebody else get out of it. Because now I'm not just talking about, what I think or I'm telling you what I went through. So because I went through that, I'm telling you, I know what's going on. You need to get out. And I do want to say this, especially in the church, if somebody comes and tells you something that's going on, please believe them. Yeah. Please believe them, because that was something that, it was kind of, I know early on when we talked about this, there were certain ones that believed me, but there were others that had questions like, I don't know. Even where that conference is concerned, I ran into some individuals. I remember I had one that was telling me that was like, well, I'm only taking your word off of it. I don't know what's really. And so it was like, you know what? Okay. But there was another that stepped in and did what was necessary to take care of the situation. But if somebody comes and tells you, hey, this is going on, please take it seriously. Now, I'm not saying that, it needs to be a blanket, you're right, we gonna da. I mean, but take it seriously and look into it.
And let me tell you why it's so important, because most people will not share that they have been violated by someone of high stature. As a matter of fact, if you get 5 people in a room, statistically speaking, 4 out of the 5 have been sexually abused or sexually assaulted in some way. That is serious. So that means if there is 2 more people, 3 more people, 4 out of the 5 that's in the room, and I'm 1, so he's 2, so we get a few more people. And so it's happening much more frequently than we want to actually talk about and deal with. So all we're saying is you have the power to speak life over your life. And part of that is creating these boundaries that you're not going to need to create in a very serious way. And it's so tough and tricky when you have a call on your life, you're an elder, God's got you set up for something, and now it's got to be interrupted. Now the very thing that you're supposed to be a part of, to build, now you're getting harmed or something is happening in it. And so the enemy tries to get involved in it. But we're so grateful to God today, Christian, that you do not allow the enemy to distort or to damage your view of the kingdom of God in a very serious way. What's your last thought to someone listening about their ability to get out and be strong in faith and strong in mind?
Just don't let it be. If I had to say anything, don't let it be your end all.
Mm,
Don't let it be your end all. My experience in that is actually what my first album is based off of. So you don't know what God's gonna use out of your situation. Yeah, it may be unfortunate, but don't let that, there's life after that. There's life after that.
And your album is absolutely fantastic. I love it. A blast to it. And make sure that you guys get it. What's the name of it? And tell them where they can find it at.
That first one is entitled Romans 8:1.
Yeah.
And so you can get that one everywhere. The second one is called The Sound of Freedom. And so you can get that everywhere as well. So, but yeah, get out, and it doesn't have to define you, and it won't define you. And it won't define you. And God can clear up anything, just like any other type of situation, sin situation that's going on. We're the only ones that hold to it. Oh my God, oh my God. All of it. God hates a liar. He hates a thief. He hates a robber. Come on here, an adulterer. He hates fornicators. It's all the same thing to God. We the ones trying to differentiate and classify what's what, and therefore people do not speak life because they think that one sin is greater than the other. All have fallen short of sins, and the glory of God is not upon you. So we all have to come into a new space. No, so don't, and cry out to God. You in a situation today. Maybe you're in the situation today, and you know, I got to get out of it. And today, let this be your freedom cry. I got to get out of it. Whoever you are, I got to get out of it. All right. So that you're blessed. And we hope and pray that this is encouraging. It's encouraged me. I'm blessed today to know that we have wonderful men and young men of God that are just still on the battlefield, not letting nothing interfere with their life business. And we're just so grateful to God. Give us your favorite scripture before we go. Oh, yeah, that Romans 8:1. That Romans 8:1. Therefore now no condemnation. No condemnation. He held on to it. And because of it, we can hear the story plainly. And thank you for just being truthful about the story, not going all the way around it, because we see the fragments and the residue of so many in the Christian church, especially here in our wonderful Bay Area. And they don't know that we can still see the fragments of it because there's this sin or there's this shame attached to it. If you're not in it, there's no shame. Come on, get delivered, get free. And the deliverance is with anything. I get delivered and set free. And that's what it's all about. Getting delivered and set free. And we're praying for the man of God too on the other side, that he too would get set free. And that the thing that God is, that the enemy's got a stronghold over him would be released off of him too. All right, I'm your guest host, and this is our other host, Mr. Christian, Elder Christian David, all the way in that Central Valley, which I will be in next month. No, 2 months. I'll be in Lemoore is where I'll be going. Yes, to preach this good old gospel for 2 days. So you guys be blessed, be encouraged. We love you. Revive the mind. And remember, the power of life and death is in the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. And you shall have the fruit thereof. And so make it good and make it good fruit. Love y'all and have a great rest of your morning. Blessings. Bye-bye.